So, welcome to Zion National Park, named after somebody's interpretation of a word. And turns out I'm an ordained minister. Not sure which cult I'm in. But anyway, here's a good book. Look at that, Serpents and Fire by Robert Ennis, now available on Amazon.com. I'm going to skip the introduction. It begins. It is a hot morning, almost midday. You are kneeling in the middle of ashes of what used to be a grassy clearing in a forest, throwing meddlesome pebbles away from a wilting plant. The pebbles land several feet away in soft dirt, sprout stubbly legs of sand, and meander off in search of fresh greens. You shout after it, "And stay away from my garden!" To your chagrin, the unlucky flower is beyond saving. Just a shriveled, blackened husk remains. It used to be a whirl of colors, all magenta and brilliant, with a fine disk of inquisitive eyeballs in the center. Now, curiously, they are all gone. Did the stones take them? No, those are just drawn to beauty. They aren't thieves. You rise to your feet, lifting your head to face the orange sky, and let out a long, frustrated puff of swirling steam from your nostrils. The last petals crumble to dust in your clenched fist. It is bright and sunny, with heavy rain clouds drifting around, with nothing better to do than have thunderous arguments off in the distance. You touch the parched soil with your finger and whisper, "If only they could put aside their differences." From a grove of still smoking tree trunks, the familiar figure of your old friend Ganesh comes into view. He is careful to avoid the embers, picking his way towards you through the ashes and dirt. He flicks a blackened root aside and rummages in the earth, wrenching up something that writhes like a serpent in his hand. Its head is covered in eyes. You recognize those eyes from your lotus! The serpent snaps at Ganesh's elephantine trunk, but his nose dodges it in a deft clockwise swoop. He shouts, "I knew I smelled something!" You exclaim, "That was close. Say, what is that you have there? Is that what burnt my garden?" He flaps his ears. "Bloody close, it was a rowdy flame rousting about here, my friend. And what, just this puny villain to blame?" He is looking at you when he says it, and in the moment of inattentiveness, the black thing coils around his fingers and turns a bright shade of red. Ganesh trumpets in surprise, letting go of the glowing worm thing. It falls on one of his big feet and singes his skin before hastily digging back into the dirt. Ganesh clutches his burnt hand and hops on one foot, bellowing in pain mixed with surprised laughter. By now, the flaming wormy beast has escaped into the earth below, leaving behind a glowing, hot red tunnel. You are shocked at your friend's unusual behavior. "Why in heaven's name would you let it go?" you implore. Just then you notice he is missing his favorite axe, the Vairagya. He's acting very strangely. He's usually calm and wise. What could have gotten into him? So you have three choices at this point. You realize there's no time to waste. You chase after the fiery serpent. Go to page 6. You squint at Ganesh and say, "The real Ganesh would never forget his axe." Go to page 7. You return home, exhausted from the day's events, disappointed in your friend's foolishness. Go to page 9. Or go to Amazon.com and look up Serpents and Fire and buy my book. It's an interactive adventure because Choose Your Own Adventure is copywritten by McGraw-Hill, the textbook guys, the guys who have a monopoly on textbooks and own your children's brains. I just want to invite a new story in to corrupt the youth with cool ideas instead of bad ones, and, or I don't know, whatever the opposite of corruption is. It's the same polarity, but you just move it forward in a certain way. You know what I mean? You take a kid, right, and then instead of poisoning their minds with a whole lot of useless nonsense, you could teach them principles with this book. Principles like friendship and wisdom and stuff. Let's just skip around, shall we? You scurry for the rocks as quietly as possible. Oh, no, I don't know. There's a title. You yell, "I demand to know where you got that tusk, lady!" I mean, just buckle up. There's going to be some good lines in this book for you. I have been accused of being the Seinfeld of forgotten deities, which is perfectly insulting to Jerry Seinfeld. He's way better. He's way better than this. You return home, exhausted from the day's events, and disappointed in your friend's foolishness on page 9. You amble past the embers of your destroyed garden and find yourself feeling more and more crippled by a gnawing anxiety that you can't quite put your finger on. You walk past innumerable dead trees on the northern side of the path, with a precipice on the southern side. As you go, you hear a baritone voice from near your feet. You shoot a glance down and spot the source. A diminutive turtle is also walking along the path, plodding forward on tiny, clawed feet. You gasp, "I'm sorry, sir, I mistook you for a wandering stone." You notice some boxy little things on the turtle's back. The turtle says, in his deep voice, "A green man. You would not happen to have some root vegetables, would you?" So you have three options at this point. You feel so tired, you just don't much feel like pulling a carrot out of your cap, so to speak. And you can go to page 16 for that. Even though it could really harm you, you create a carrot from your own flesh and give it to the turtle. Go to page 18. You barter. If I give you a carrot, what will you give me in return? Go to page 19. Well, I'm feeling transactional today because I want you to transact and purchase my book. You barter. If I give you a carrot, what will you give me in return? The turtle thinks about this. He asks, "A barter, is it? You want to barter?" You nod. "Yes, I am willing to make a trade. It's been so dry out here that I can grow that little can grow. If I make a carrot for you, I will have to make it from my own vegetable matter. If it would only rain, I could make you as many as you'd want. But I would have to spend my own flesh and blood, and so I have to demand a higher price. What do you have to offer in exchange?" The turtle's eyes narrow with greed. "As many as I want?" That wasn't the answer you thought he'd say. You cock your eyebrow and ask, "What?" He says, "If it rains, I can get as many as I want. That is what you said, isn't it?" You stammer, "Well, yes, but it hasn't rained in over a month, and the rain clouds are refusing to give water." The turtle says, "Carry me where I say, and I'll make sure it rains like you've never seen. But you keep up your end of the bargain, child." Can the turtle really make that happen? You, the reader, should place a small green marble or other small green object in your pocket to represent the turtle. You return to the garden, where Ganesh is rummaging around in what's left of the petunias. He chortles, "You should rub yourself with some of these to get some of that awful stench off of you. If only it would rain again soon. You could use a shower." You are dismayed at this insult. "You bathe with nothing but sand, Ganesh. You stink like an elephant on a hot day." He puckers his lips. "I am fragrant, it is true. I reek of sage wisdom, and I am perfumed by sage brush. Indeed, the sagest of all brushes." You grumble. "Oh, who's fooling who?" He chides you. "Who is correcting whom, my friend? Whom?" Go to page 20. You take a look around. This desolate and ashen place could use some rain. You ask, "Well, who do we know that could bring rain here? My flowers are dead, and I need more lotus eyes. I'm up against a challenge that will really require I have access to some extra wisdom." Ganesh gives you a hurt look, rather exaggerated, to show it's all in play. "What, my endless wisdom is not enough for you?" You pacify him with, "It wasn't enough wisdom to capture that fiery serpent, now was it? We will need a lotus dose of wisdom, Ganesh." Ganesh puts his behemoth hand on his waist and pouts. "But I'm so wise, Green Man, my friend." You sigh, "Ganesh, I've wanted to talk with you about this for a while. You know I love you, man, but I don't know how else to put this. You haven't been thinking straight, and it just seems like you're kind of out of sorts. What's going on, man?" Ganesh frowns in introspection. "That's true, he sighs. "I have had some challenges with my family in the last while. Some of my family members have gone missing, and I'm worried. I've not seen my rat all week, and this is going to probably sound insane, but I feel like I used to remember more things, like half of my life is just gone. That sounds crazy, right?" You shrug. Ganesh rubs his chins. Rain tonight? That is very soon, Green Man. Tlaloc is away on a pilgrimage. Permit me to consider this thing. There is a jaguar a very short distance from here, but I hear she has a problem with strangers coming through her territory. There is also Yansa, but things between us have become complicated. If you visit her, I cannot go with you." Do you visit the territorial jaguar, or do you visit its complicated Yansa? Well, you want to visit the jaguar? You visit the jaguar. You go to page 21. You say, "I like cats. Let's visit the storm goddess, the jaguar. Imagine that, a cat that likes water." Ganesh chuckles. "Many big cats like water. It's the little pussies that can't handle it. That and people woven of cotton candy." Your smile disappears. That was a terrible date. Ganesh smiles even bigger, with a tinge of joy at your misfortunes. "A surprise date to a gala in the ocean with someone made of cotton candy, and this possibility did not occur to you?" He leans forward to you with a knowing expression and wags his huge brows at you. "Quit it, Ganesh. I've had enough bad luck today." He huffs. "Oh, please, everybody heard about it." Ganesh takes a whiff of you, gags, and touches his one unbroken tusk, as if to make sure it's still there. He asks, "Have you been drinking?" You almost take offense at how callous of a question that is. "Ganesh, you know it's not rained in a month." His huge fingers struggle with the process of stuffing his pipe with tobacco. "I mean, have you been imbibing alcohol, my green friend? It would be best not to have a drop of alcohol in you if we're going to visit the jaguar. You clutch the tiny flask on your belt. The words of your grandfather echo in your mind. Never forget who you are, my child. So, do you choose not to disgrace your heritage and say, I don't have any booze? Go to page 35. Or do you consider your options and set the flask somewhere that you'll be able to find it easy later and go to page 36? Or do you say, Ganesh would never forget his axe or rat. This might not be the Ganesh you know. Go to page 7. What do you think? You choose not to disgrace your heritage. You say, I don't have any booze. Go to page 35. Ganesh grimaces for a moment. You'd better be sure about that, my friend. It is prohibited again, but I trust that you are telling me the truth. Ganesh whistles, and his enormous rat, Vahana, arrives with a rustle through the brush. It takes a few tries to scale its silky smooth fur, but you pack your meager possessions atop it. Ganesh and you hasten to the borders of the lands of the jaguar. You pass trees and knolls until you arrive at a river so wide it could drown an army. You shout, trying to be heard over the stream, Ganapati, the river is too wide! We cannot cross here! Ganesh rubs an enormous earlobe and closes his parasol. It is wide, yes. If only we had something that could suck up all the water. He looks at you and eyes your flask, which you have hidden very poorly. Your eyes go wide. But Ganesh, this flask belonged to Thor, and the mead in it is the purest in the world. I would not want to water it down. Ganesh laughs. And I thought you said you did not have any booze. Quickly, child, put the flask in the river. Thor had a thirst greater than all the deserts. That flask was made for him and his unquenchable thirst. I would wager it can hold an entire ocean. So do you begrudgingly put the flask in the river? Or do you refuse to sully your flask with this river for the honor of your grandfather? Let's do that one on page 66. You refuse. You affirm to Ganesh, no, I will be fine. Ganesh shrugs. Suit yourself. We will merely have to find a different way around, my friend. But you should still avoid having that on you before we meet the jaguar. Big hats hate booze, and they will attack people who have been drinking. You grumble, yeah. That river is wide, with swirling eddies and foam. You see sticks and even a few logs make their way down. This gets you thinking. You traipse over fallen log and branch. What way is there around a rushing river? Honestly, can't we just make a bridge? Ganesh twirls his mustache. A bridge, you say? An excellent idea, but it would take a week, and we only have maybe a day or two before your garden is dead beyond dead. You point to the logs and foam in the river. Do you see that, Ganapati? Ganesh gets snarky and talks down to you. Yes, Green Man, that is a river. It is water. Big water. You snap your fingers at him. Hey, put your attitude away. I don't have to ruin this flask just to feed your ego. Do you see that foam and logs? There was a storm that did that. Ganesh is surprised, but doubtful. How do you know it is from a storm? You wade into the river, soaking up that delectable water. If only it ran close enough to your garden for you to use it for irrigation. You wait for an appropriate log to get within arm's reach and snag it. You hold it high for Ganesh to see. See this? A log! Well done! Ganapati, your attitude is really terrible today. What's going on, man? Ganesh sighs. I'm sorry, ever since Yansa left me, I find myself getting angry about the smallest things. That's alright, Ganesh, but remember, I'm on your side. So you don't have to take it out on me. Some tears well up in Ganesh's eye, and he snorts. Ugh, must be dusty out here. Alright, my friend, show me this magical log. You scramble up the muddy embankment. It's better than magical. See that branching pattern burnt into the wood? That's from lightning. That means this came from a stormy area. Where did you say that jaguar lives? I don't think I did say. She lives in a forest a few hills over past this river. Ganesh, pay attention to the quality of the trees in her forest. If they are withered or if they're burnt like this, I want nothing to do with her. Ganesh hesitates, but you need water. Do you see this river? You sweep your hand, gesturing towards the river. Yes, it is rather difficult to ignore this thing. Ganesh, you're a strong fellow. Why should you and I go beg a stupid cat for water? Huh? Let's dig a canal and bring some of this water to my garden and to the neighbors. We can end some of the infighting over water, perhaps. You muse, wringing your hands. Ganesh heaves a big sigh. Well, let's start digging. And this is the beginning of something better and the end of this timeline. So, buy my book, Serpents and Fire by Robert Ennis on Amazon.com. It should be about $7 for a little paperback. I hope it entertains you and your kiddos for hours. I wrote it in a week. Because I'm that crazy. I am that ordained of a minister. How about that? Yeah, so this should be good. Check out legendmasters.com for amazing apparel. Check out my Patreon, subscribe. I don't know, throw money at me and then I'll just keep writing books and things. Just inspire me. Hurl money at me and I will make the world a better place. That's my agreement to you. Legendmasters.com for outrageous apparel, tapestries, some backpacks, metaphysical gear. We also cater to the scientific community, which is a really unusual combination. I understand, but I'm not worried about it. I design a whole bunch of stuff, but oh gosh, I just want you to buy the things I've already made. They're amazing. I'm just trying to bless your freaking lives. I'm like humanity's house cat. I'm trying to bring you these delicious sparrows, and you just keep throwing them in the garbage. Anyway, love you guys.